Breaking news. Tonight on Steelers Talk, film study has uncovered shocking reasons the Pittsburgh Steelers offense stalled against New England and what it means for the Dublin game against Minnesota. Listen close. We'll expose one major strategic problem that's forcing the Steelers into a short pass, dink-and-duck offense, and why that could cost them if it isn't fixed fast. But before we dive into the latest film and full breakdown, do this now. Subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, and press the bell so you don't miss any hard film work we drop. Alright, let's move on to the new news. In the next few minutes you'll get the real reason Pittsburgh isn't attacking defenses downfield, how the offensive line and play calling are feeding the problem, and 3 specific fixes the Steelers must make immediately. This isn't hot takes or fluff, it's film, facts, and a plan. Stay with us. The Steelers' offense is caught in a dangerous cycle right now, and it all starts with one glaring weakness. They cannot get defenses out of too high safety looks. Think about it. When a defense sits back with 2 safeties deep, it dares you to run the football. That's supposed to be the moment when Pittsburgh leans on its ground game and forces the defense to adjust. But the Steelers aren't cashing in. Even with heavy personnel on the field, extra tight ends, extra blockers, they still can't create push up front. And if you can't run when the numbers favor you, why on earth would defenses ever respect your run game? They won't. That's why the deep ball has disappeared. Rodgers is sitting near the bottom of the league in average depth of target, not because he suddenly forgot how to throw, but because there's no reason for defenses to budge. Add shaky pass protection on top of that, with tackles allowing quick inside pressure, and you've got a quarterback forced to settle for short throws all night. Rodgers isn't the problem here. In fact, he's doing a respectable job of taking what defenses give him. But when your offense is stuck dinking and dunking, it's only a matter of time before mistakes show up. Now, let's be fair, there was one bright spot. The screen game finally looked alive. Jaylen Warren was electric in space, turning simple dump-offs into chunk gains. DK Metcalf also flashed on a few design screens, while Jonnu Smith, despite a scary fumble, gave glimpses of the role Pittsburgh hoped for when they added him. If the run game won't wake up, then leaning heavier on this screen package might be the only way to create balance and slow down aggressive defenses. But here's the tough reality. Those first-round tackles, the very guys drafted to anchor this line, are turning into liabilities. Inside pressure, missed assignments, and too many snaps where Rodgers barely has a second to set his feet. Every Steelers fan can see it. The foundation of the offense is cracking from the edges. This isn't just a bad day at the office. It's a structural issue, and unless Pittsburgh finds a way to fix it fast, every defense on the schedule will copy this blueprint. Sit back and too high, choke off the deep ball, and dare the Steelers to win in the trenches. Let's be real. The offensive tackles were supposed to be the building blocks of this new Steelers offense, but through 3 weeks they've looked more like weak links. Troy Fautanu, in particular, has been a huge disappointment. This was the guy labeled NFL-ready, polished, reliable, the safe first-round pick. Yet so far, he's allowing almost as much interior pressure as Broderick Jones, who at least came in raw and still developing. The truth is, both tackles are losing too many battles in both the run game and pass protection, and that's crippling the offense before it even starts. The good news? There's still time. These are young players, and if they can grow into their roles as the season unfolds, it could flip the entire trajectory of Pittsburgh's offense. But right now, their anchor's dragging things down. And then we get to DK Metcalf, the $33 million man. Let's be clear, he's not washed, and this isn't all on him. The bigger issue is how he's being used. In Tennessee, Arthur Smith turned A.J. Brown into a wrecking ball by feeding him on slants, digs, and play-action concepts that let him bulldoze defenders after the catch. That's the type of role Metcalf was built for. He's a freight train with the ball in his hands. No defensive back wants to see him barreling downfield full speed. But instead of unleashing that, Pittsburgh has him stuck as a vertical jump ball specialist, running fades and streaks like a George Pickens clone. That's a waste. The film tells the story. Metcalf's best moments this season have come when he's allowed to attack underneath, catch in stride, and explode into space. We saw flashes against the Jets. Once he hits that top gear, he looks unstoppable. Yet the Steelers keep forcing him into a role that doesn't match his strengths. Arthur Smith has to wake up and adjust. Metcalf isn't just a deep threat. He's a game breaker when you design plays that let him build momentum. Right now, the offense feels like it's leaving yards, points, and big moments on the field simply by miscasting one of the most physically dominant receivers in football. The Steelers' passing attack is stuck in an identity crisis, and it shows every time they take the field. Roman Wilson, for example, isn't part of some big three wide receiver set the way most NFL teams operate. He's a depth piece, plain and simple. Pittsburgh isn't built around three receivers. Instead, their core four pass catchers are DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin III, and the tight end duo of Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth. That was the plan from the start. Load up on tight ends, mix in heavy personnel, and try to bully defenses with size while sprinkling in play action. But here's the harsh reality. It isn't working. The run game hasn't improved despite all the extra blockers, and the tight ends, who were supposed to stress defenses as versatile weapons, aren't consistently separating against man coverage. Calvin Austin has shown flashes, but he's not seeing the volume needed to punish defenses for crowding the line. Meanwhile, defenses know exactly what to do. Play man, stay in too high, and force Rodgers into checkdowns. This brings us to the one steady spark in the offense, Jaylen Warren. His stat line might not jump off the page, but the film tells a different story. He's averaging just over 3 yards per carry, yet that's almost a miracle given the chaos in front of him. Time after time, Warren is dodging defenders in the backfield, turning would-be losses into positive yards. Add in his reliability as a receiver, and suddenly the Steelers' most dependable playmaker isn't a star wideout or a high-priced tight end. It's Warren, grinding for every inch and giving this offense life when no one else can. The bigger problem? Pittsburgh is leaning on him far too much because the structure they designed, heavy sets, tight end mismatches, power football, hasn't translated on the field. Right now, this unit feels predictable, slow to adjust, and far too dependent on one player's effort to cover up everyone else's shortcomings. Here is the fifth section, but write it so attractively that the audience is compelled to listen. If this script contains a product promotion, remove the promotion and rewrite it. But pay special attention to one thing. Your script is different from my script. Listeners understand that it has written itself. Now don't add YouTube promotion. If there's one truth about this offense right now, it's this. Without Jaylen Warren, everything would collapse. He's the lifeline. Every time the blocking falls apart, which is often, he somehow finds a way to slip past a defender, grind out yards, and keep the drive alive. But that also comes with a chilling reality. Warren is taking on a heavy workload, and with that comes higher risk. If he were to miss time, even a single game, it's hard to imagine what this offense would look like. That's how dependent Pittsburgh has become on one player's sheer effort. And yet, despite all the struggles around him, Aaron Rodgers remains steady. He isn't the issue here. Watch the tape. He's placing the ball where it needs to go, making the right reads, and still showing flashes of that arm talent that defined his career. When receivers actually separate, when the scheme opens things up, Rodgers delivers. We saw it in the Jets game. For touchdown passes, surgical execution. The problem isn't Rodgers, it's the lack of support around him. No consistent run game, tight ends failing to create mismatches, and receivers who aren't getting open against man coverage. It feels eerily familiar to last year, when the Steelers couldn't support Russell Wilson or Justin Fields with balance and structure, leaving them stranded behind a sputtering line and inconsistent weapons. Now history is repeating with Rodgers. The difference is, if Pittsburgh adjusts and actually gives him the help he needs, he's still more than capable of putting up big numbers. So here's the bottom line. Rodgers is not the weakness. The system, the line, and the supporting cast have to rise to his level. If they do, this offense can finally start looking like it belongs in the modern NFL. If they don't, then once again, all the pressure and all the risk falls squarely on Jaylen Warren's shoulders. And with that, it's time to flip the script. Offense covered. Now let's turn our eyes to the defense, because there's plenty to unpack on that side of the ball too. You know what's fascinating? This is classic Mike Tomlin defense. For nearly 2 decades in Pittsburgh, Tomlin's kept the same philosophy. Keep it simple early, and trust your guys to make a play. On first and second down, it's almost always straight up cover 1 or cover 3. No tricks, no disguises, nothing fancy. The idea is simple. Wait for the pass rush to land a sack, hope for a penalty, or force a negative play. Once you've pushed the offense behind the sticks, then you open up the playbook, fire zones, disguised looks, rotations, the stuff that can really throw a quarterback off balance. But here's the problem. Teams have figured it out. If they stay on schedule and avoid those early mistakes, they can move the ball through the air against this defense. Look at the numbers. For most of that game, the Steelers' coverages were completely vanilla. It wasn't until the final drive that they suddenly shifted into disguise-heavy looks, throwing rotations and different coverages at the Patriots. That late-game adjustment is probably why Pittsburgh tends to come up big in crunch time, but the cost is obvious. They give up way too many yards before then. Now let's talk personnel. Chuck Clark got the majority of snaps at safety, while Juan Thornhill went from playing every down last week to less than half this week. That's a major demotion. And honestly, it's time to get Jabril Peppers on the field more. His film was outstanding. He forced a fumble, played physical in run support, and even handled deep safety responsibilities better than Clark or Thornhill. His PFF grade backed it up too, but the tape doesn't lie. He was flying around making impact plays. Pairing him with Deshaun Elliott could give this secondary a real spark. But to maximize that, you've got to get Joey Porter Jr. and Elliott back healthy and in the lineup. That's when this defense could go from bend but don't break to actually dictating games again. When Joey Porter Jr. isn't on the field, you can feel the difference immediately. He's that rare meg defender, man everywhere he goes, locked onto the opponent's best receiver, trusted to hold up one-on-one in press with those long arms. Without him, the Steelers are stuck in soft, off coverage, and it shows. This defense just doesn't have another corner it truly trusts to play press and win. Losing Joey has been a massive blow. And then there's Deshaun Elliott. One of the most instinctive run-stopping safeties in football, Elliott's absence has been just as costly. He's physical, he diagnoses plays quickly, and in zone coverages he can buzz down and take away space in an instant. Having to rely on Chuck Clark and Juan Thornhill instead has left the secondary exposed. They've had their flashes, sure, but overall it's been a clear weak point. The vision for this defense is clear. Peppers flying around with his intensity, Elliott bringing toughness and instincts, and Porter Jr. locking up receivers on the outside. You put that trio together alongside veterans like Jalen Ramsey and Darius Slay. If they can all stay healthy, and suddenly this secondary looks nothing like the one we've seen through the first 3 weeks. Now, shifting to the linebackers, starting Cole Holcomb over Peyton Wilson was the right move. Holcomb was more disciplined, more physical, and simply better against the run. Wilson, meanwhile, continues to struggle. His lapses in coverage were costly, including a blown assignment that led to New England's second touchdown. The hype out of camp had people, including me, thinking he was ready to be the next great Steelers linebacker. Right now, he's got a long way to go. For now, Holcomb has to be that steady number 2 until Jelani Tavai, or Bentley, depending on rotation, finds his footing. And Patrick Queen, he's coming alive. Especially against the run, you see his instincts, his speed, his physicality. Pass coverage isn't his strength, but let's be honest, very few linebackers in today's NFL consistently win in zone coverage. Queen has already racked up 9 run stuffs, and that's exactly the kind of impact Pittsburgh needs in the middle of this defense. Patrick Queen has been a difference maker these past 2 weeks. 9 run stuffs in that span. That's 9 plays where the offense went nowhere because of him. That physicality and speed in the middle completely changed the tone of the run defense, and pairing him with Cole Holcomb has brought in new stability. Remember Week 1, when both Queen and Peyton Wilson looked lost against the run. Fast forward to now, and suddenly Queen and Holcomb look like the duo you can trust to keep ground games in check. But the job's not finished. The Steelers still need to figure out what they're doing at nose tackle. Keanu Benton has shown flashes, moments where he can get leverage and disrupt, but too often he's swallowed up by double teams and driven backwards. Last game was his best so far, but imagine the impact if they shifted him to defensive end, where he could attack one-on-one more often. Slide in a space eater like Montravius Adams, or, better yet, a true 330-pound wall like Braden Fehoko at nose, and suddenly Benton is free to be the disruptor he's built to be. That adjustment could transform this run defense. And let's talk about creativity, specifically with Jalen Ramsey. The Steelers have one of the best blitzing corners in the entire NFL, but right now, offenses don't fear him the way they should. He blitzed just once in this last game, and what happened? 4th and 1 stop. Game sealed. Back when Mike Hilton was here, teams had to account for him on every single snap because of that blitz threat. Why not use Ramsey the same way? Line him up near the line. Force quarterbacks to constantly wonder if he's coming. It opens up the entire defense. Right now, Pittsburgh is wasting one of their best weapons. Then there's the pass rush. TJ Watt did what TJ Watt does. 2 sacks, relentless pressure, sheer dominance. But Nick Herbig deserves just as much attention. He was everywhere. Forced fumble, constant disruption, The kind of impact you usually only expect from seasoned vets, not young players still carving their role. With Alex Highsmith sidelined, Herbig isn't just filling in, he's thriving. In fact, he's making a case that's impossible to ignore. Maybe he isn't just a short-term replacement. Maybe he's earned a long-term starting role. And that's the fascinating part. Highsmith is talented, no question, but he's expensive and he's been banged up far too often. If Herbig keeps producing like this, the Steelers are going to have a big decision to make about their future edge-rushing duo. Right now, he looks like a rising star, and this defense feels more dangerous with him in the mix.